Good afternoon, it's Shirley with Spirit of Matter, and we are on a Mars night, Mercury hour. Ascendant ruled by Mercury, with Mercury in the 5th house of romance and fun stuff and gambling and addictions and children. And midheaven is right conjunct in Saturn, but is on Fomalhaut. And the fixed star Fomalhaut in Pisces is basically about having psychic knowledge, psychic insight beyond words. It's not the inner knowing of things without actually being able to phrase them, but it's also about eloquence. Can also be slander, depending on what you have there. Saturn retrograde on this point kind of dredges up this psychic information that you're kind of like not sure about and are sensing but don't know how to apply that or how to act on this. But with this aspect is basically you're learning that discernment in your inner psychic and acting upon it, whether severing ties or committing to something in your life. That means that the IC is on Lilith, who is in 0 degrees Virgo. So Jupiter, the ruler of the midheaven, is in the 12th house, 13 degrees in Taurus. And the moon is in 15 degrees Cancer, separating from a sextile to this Jupiter. Mercury is separating from a trine to Pluto. And Mars is squaring Pluto, applying to tightly square Pluto. And so this episode, the topic of this episode is basically your ascendant in synastries. And so a synastry is basically taking two natal charts or more and overlaying them one on top of the other. So let's say you have ascendant Capricorn and the other person has ascendant Cancer, then you are having ascendant in each other's 7th house. Okay, so thinking about one-on-one relationship or open enmity or business partnership. Okay, you might be considering each other as marriage material or partnership material or an equal opponent. So there is the ascendant and where it drops. Okay, somebody brings their ascendant, who they are, okay, into one of your houses. For example, in this chart, Pisces is the 10th house, okay? And so a Pisces ascendant in this, let's say if this was a natal chart, any person with a Pisces ascendant would be a person that shows up in this person's 10th house. Could be a parent, it could be a boss, okay? It could be somebody that's affecting the public image of this person. So it's just like any other planet coming into, but this is ascendant is more personal. It's genuinely the native. Okay, where our sun and moon is kind of like our parents, our upbringers, that also become an emotional and a cognitive side of ourselves. But the ascendant is basically us. And the ascendant ruler, wherever it is also signifying us. So let's say in this chart, the ascendant is Mercury, the ascendant is Gemini, and Mercury is ruling the ascendant. And so whatever encounter we would have in a synastry between 20 degrees Gemini, or whatever it's doing in the chart, and 3 degrees Libra, which is Mercury, and what it's doing in the chart would be a very personal aspect to consider. Now, for both the ascendant and ascendant ruler, aspects that are harmonious, whether with personal planets or outer planets, aspects that are harmonious means that you are somehow complemented, connecting, communicating, and to some degree transformed. Okay, it's not like Pluto transformed, but definitely there's just something about who you are that is being accomplished or communicated or showing up or receiving support, basically. So let's say you're a woman, okay, and your ascendant ruler is Mars, but you know you're kind of like this dominant persona, and let's say this Mars actually well aspected. Let's say it's in home, in Aries, in Scorpio, or even in Capricorn, and you try to, let's say, date someone. So you're gonna make the effort, the strategy to present the image that you want because you want to attract, but you forget your Mars side. Okay, you play so much on the feminine, the attractive, the you know um, what people consider falling to a certain category of like the Venusian, just to overcompensate for your Mars, and you meet someone, okay, whose Mars sextiles your Mars, and they're kind of in a very tender and elegant way brings out the Mars in you and show you that they're actually very much erotically attracted to you as you are, as you're expressing this Mars. But you were not feeling that as bickering, as a crisis, as something that is getting at your energy. Actually, you're feeling like a relief. It's like, oh my God, you're thankful that they did that. Their Mars could be trining or even sextiling your Mars. They're bringing up, or it's trining, sextiling your ascendant. And they are just bringing up the Mars in you and accepting it. So now you're not afraid to be this assertive, deep, strategic person, or embody the qualities, or let's say passion and drive that are considered Martian. You're also not afraid to initiate with this person, and that is a very blessed encounter. Okay, there's something about you that you weren't showing up, or you were showing up, you were brave enough to show up, and is very well received by the other person. Whether it's Mars, Venus, Mercury, or it's the way you communicate. Um, and and if it is an outer planet, it can be some part of you that you were afraid to express. If it is Pluto, for example, there can be part of you that you would be afraid to express, or the person that you desire to become but afraid to be, or the person that you desire to become but didn't know, aren't aware you're desiring to become. A Pluto that sextiles, that trines your ascendant from another person is going to bring out the best in you through this exploration of your fears in an environment that is safe. Again, you have to understand this is one aspect, it's one string out of an entire composition. Okay, so you need to know what else is going on. There will always be a mixture of some harmonious stuff and some squeaky stuff, and you have to pay attention to what is the harmonious and what is the squeaky stuff. So if it is, let's say, Neptune, so this person, if it is a harmonious aspect, they may bring some sort of a spiritual experience to you, idyllic interaction that can actually be fruitful and can actually be good. If it is Uranus, they might liberate, you might feel a Kundalini rise with this person, and simply because their Uranus is sextiling or trining your Uranus. Okay. Now we get to the part where it isn't roses. Okay. This is where your ascendant or their ascendant, okay, this can be both you're the recipient of this energy or you're the giver of this energy. is met in harsh aspects, that is the square, the quincunx, the 150 degrees, or the opposition, by somebody else's personal or outer planet. This is where you want to begin to pay attention. Okay? Let's say it's the moon. Okay, your ascendant squares their moon. What does it mean? Who you are creates an emotional conflict within them. Now, it can be something that they can contain, that there are other things that are working, that their moon is finely aspected, let's say, by your Mars, by your Venus, so they will learn to radically accept you. Okay? It doesn't mean the end all, it's just one aspect, but you need to understand that this is what it is. Who you are stirs up an emotional upheaval in the person. Okay, if this is the Venus, who you are is at odds with their love language. Basically you. Okay, and this could be your ascendant or ascendant ruler that's making this hard aspect. If it is their ascendant and your personal planet, then something in the way that you either approach them or connect with them or communicate with them or vulnerable in front of them or shy next to them is creating conflict with who they are, but also who they are is conflictual with either your shine or your traumas or whatnot. It's like this person rubs you the wrong way, but also you do something to this person that rubs them the wrong way. Now with the ascendant, you're very likely to, because it's the initial impression, both of you are very likely to pay attention to it. And now some modern astrologers perhaps, and I don't know for sure, might downplay this because they say the ascendant is when you just first impression, okay? Later you will have the sun and moon, which make for the more internal aspects that you really need to look at in synastry. But if you look at it also from a traditional point of view, traditionally the ascendant is the native, okay? So if you have Gemini ascendant, Mercury is ruling your chart. You are that Gemini ascendant. All the other planets are other people in your life that you adopt certain parts of, but it's not you. Okay, when you have a transit going over these parts in your life, it's gonna be your sister, your brother, your pet, your father, your daughter. Okay, but when you have this transit to the ascendant, it's gonna be you. Okay, and that is the traditional perspective on it, and this is why it's so important to pay attention to it also in a synastry chart, as well as the composite, but it's a bit in a different notion. Very, very important, this thing. Now, because a lot of people don't have the exact ascendant, it's still possible to give you a synastry and a composite reading without a birth time. But when you do have an ascendant, you're gonna notice it very soon that there are certain ways in which, if you do rub each other wrong, is going to be apparent at first, and this is where intuition can come to play. There's going to be a certain intuition. This intuition is correct. Okay? And oftentimes, these are kind of a test to our ability to listen to our intuition and not be tempted and stop this. But if you have a synastry, then you're much more advanced in your ability to apply intuition because you see the actual geometry of how you interact. And now when this is meeting you in a hard aspect, depending on both the planet and how you deal with it and how the other person contains it and how you contain it, it's giving conflicts to who you are in a very real way and even physical, okay? So if this is Mars, it can be that even if this person is in no way abrasive, you could even, let's say if they have Mars coming from your 5th house and is squaring your ascendant, okay? So you're having fun activities together, not necessarily even intimate or sexual. And in these fun activities, this person suddenly bruises you by accident, okay, by chance. They don't even mean to do that. They're just acting in a certain way, and then you're meeting them, and then physically you just get hurt by them. Okay, can give you an example of one such thing that can happen. Read a Facebook post by a person that she was sitting in the, I think, train, and her leg accidentally touched the person next to her. Okay, she didn't apologize because she didn't feel that this was in any way important enough. It was not anywhere near, like it was not painful or a kick or something like that. At least was her perception. This person downright stepped on her toe or kicked her, no, stepped on her foot on purpose and reacted like this. Okay, this can be a situation where you have like an abrasive Mars aspect to your ascendant. That's the ascendant Pisces that rules the feet, and somebody comes at you with this, I don't know, Gemini Mars. Okay, just kick you back. It's kind of like, I didn't mean to harm you, and but it's already too late because you don't trust each other. And so this can even happen with the Mars. The person can be physically abrasive or misinterpret, and then it's just a dissonance, there's a conflict. But it can also be that you're playing together and you're, I don't know, doing so, you're dancing together, and that person accidentally stepped on your foot, and it's really painful. and and they tend to do that, and they don't intend for it. It's just like, and they're not a sloppy dancer. It's just like the way that you meet them is constantly running into you physically in a way that's bruising for you rather than enjoyable. Whereas if that person was had it Mars sextile in your ascendant, you could be perhaps learning how to dance together, and that initial clumsiness would become actually quite playful and quite joyous and quite sexy, but not those bruises that you would get with the hard aspects. Okay, for mockery, it can be communication, something that they say that from another angle, if somebody else would say that, you would let it slide, or you would even enjoy their saying that. If they are saying that, suddenly it hits a nerve in you, or if it's the other way around, you say something, it hits a nerve in them, and they're like, no, I don't like it. And when this thing comes from, with Mars, it says physical injury, danger of physical injury. With Venus, it can make you feel unloved. It can make you feel like the way that they are expressing love is unfelt by you. Okay? It's not just Venus to Venus and Venus to Mars, or Venus to Moon, is also ascendant. Okay? Or the way that they connect with you is just not rubbing you correctly. Or literally, no, that's more Mars. But the thing is, Venus too. If it is, let's say, Jupiter, it is already beliefs related. Okay, something about your beliefs. Their beliefs is at odds with who you are. For example, let's say you're coming from different religious backgrounds, and that person asks you to wear hijab. And to you, it's like, maybe it's nice as a fashionable a statement every once in a while, but you will absolutely not adopt this for you. And now you're fighting over a piece of cloth, basically, that means a lot to him or to her, but not to you. But it's not just not to you, it's not something you're willing to compromise. Whereas if that person would have a Venus trine or sextile, they could be asking the very same thing, and then, you know what, I will put this on, and maybe I will find a fashionable one, and well, this is okay, but it's important for me that it's not, if one hair slips out of it, or if I do it as a fashion, this is not going to be an issue. And person is going to be like, okay, this is both respectful of me and disrespectful of you, and I'm not going to be, like petty about how you wear it, and you're not going to be like petty about, like not putting that. And with another person, you could be like totally compromising this. But with that person, when they ask you to do this, they like, no, 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 that's not appropriate. Okay. Or it can be specifically because of the value, okay, that their value is genuinely contradicting. And even if they would be coming from a trine perspective, so with the trine they could compromise this, but with the square or the opposition, it's more difficult for them to compromise because it's a value that's important to them. Okay. Or with the Jupiter, sorry, because I said, yeah, because it was a piece of cloth. So I said Venus, but Jupiter is in Venus sign. But let's say Jupiter, so it's religious belief that you find difficult. And if it's in a square, there's a crisis. And this crisis, in many cases, it means that you are growing apart. That the minute you set your standards, it's not that they will accept it, or you will hold this crisis, you will hold this tension. But because this is pertaining to who you are, it's very likely that you will grow apart from this person. So pay very close attention to hard aspects to your ascendant and their ascendant, because this means that if you are hard aspect in their ascendant, as they are growing apart from you. They're not going to grow into the image that you want them to be. They're going to go apart from that, which can, depending on the planets and their dignity and how you deal with them, be crisis to both of you. Okay. Now, when it is Saturn, this is also already the ruler of karma and the ruler of time. So I spoke on another video about Saturn to Saturn aspects in synastries. And indeed, having these harmonious aspects between Saturns, especially the square and the quincunx, but also to some degree the opposition, it can mean that as you are tending to your karma, as you are taking responsibility for your life, you're actually meeting up with the opposition, and in many ways it means you are growing apart. With the opposition, you can have a yin and yang effect, and this when I listened to Jewel from Truth in Aspect Astrology for this aspect, she said, well, if you learn to adapt what the stronger Saturn brings, then both people can learn how to do Saturn in a good way. And the opposition can be bridged by having this yin, I need something from you, you need something from me. It's like the seventh from each other. But even with the opposition, there's always the risk that come Saturn, you will grow apart from each other. Okay? And I addressed it in another episode. If it's Saturn to your ascendant, it means that when this person, what they are doing to honor their Saturn, so when their Saturn is actually healthy and operating well, when they're actually taking responsibility for their lives, it creates an identity crisis within you. Or the other way around, if it's your Saturn and their ascendant, when you actually get a grip of yourself, take responsibility for your life, dedicate yourself, whether it's by resting or by more contraction, okay, more dedication, then it creates an identity crisis within them. Okay, I can give one such example from my personal life. When I was in a very young age, in my 20s, then I was dating someone who was 8 years older, 8 years older than me. And he did not want any kids, any family, any like this. And I felt that I'm the same. But after a while, I felt like this is a phase. I might want kids. I might want family. Okay, I might want relationship. I don't know. Okay, And I felt like, oh, but this is a phase that you grow out of, because I was the younger person. And as I was going through my own maturation, then I was like, okay, this is a phase. It's a phase you grow out of. He was having identity crisis because he thought we were on the same page, and I will forever stay that girl that he imagined me to be. All the while, for me, it was a phase that I was growing from. Again, with age gap, you can have that a lot when you're dealing with these things. And so Saturn to your ascendant, it can actually be prolonged time, because Saturn moves so slowly. Then even though it's your ascendant, you can feel it sooner. But if you don't, it means that if nothing is aspecting this, if Saturn is not making a move, if nothing is triggering this aspect, the moon will trigger it slightly every month. But other than that, you would think, oh, it's just a phase. It's just a conversation we had. Oh, it's nothing. But then comes Saturn transit for one or both of you, and you understand that this was no doggone thing. And that can take, that can take 7 years, that can take 14 years, and in some extreme cases, even more than that. So you could be finding yourself growing out of a relationship that you've spent a lot of time in. This is why, if you have your ascendant, you want to make sure, the slower the planet moves, the slower it's going to take to notice this and to break free of this. Because Saturn is binding, it's time. And this is, when it's a hard aspect, it's through crisis, okay? When Saturn is actually trining your ascendant or sextiling your ascendant, you become more mature with this person and are inspired by this person, and they can feel committed to you, because it's the Saturn. The more they're doing the Saturn, the more they find themselves with you, okay? And that is another thing that that you would want to consider when you're looking at charts, when you're looking at synastries. Okay, if their Saturn is actually harmoniously aspect with your Saturn and with your ascendant and ascendant ruler, it can be the case that the more that they grow, mature in the right way, in the right direction, the more they find themselves committed to you. It can be, even though it's not romantic, it can be a very good aspect for longevity of a healthy connection. Okay, and if you have it double whammy, and you always want to look both sides, okay, because they could be feeling that with you, but you are actually being triggered, and you have to grow apart from them. So they have the same thing, but double whammy, okay, to both sides. Now we get to the outer planets. So the first we have Uranus. And, like I said, with Uranus on the harmonious aspects, it's going to be a Kundalini rise, a rejuvenation, vital energy that is just bringing the best in you. And you think about the Uranus sextile Uranus or Uranus trine Uranus. You could also be looking into astrology together, and if you are an astrologer, it can bring the astrologer within you. Yes, such an aspect can be very beneficial, and if you have it double, then even better. But if you have it hard aspects, what that means is when this person is having Kundalini rise, and you might trigger that, it is creating crisis in your connection. Wow, because Uranus is moving so slowly, what can this be? For example, let's say you're already committed. This person is having a midlife crisis, okay? Now they're having an affair. Okay, now they're having an affair with someone. And this is through crisis that you find out that, and then they come to you to say to you, you know what? I want to try to liberate, I want to live non-monogamously. And you're like, this doesn't, is it because I am unattractive? Is it because I am this? Is it because I am that? And eventually you will find out it was none of the above. Ever. But it's going to be through a crisis. that you discover that. Okay, first you're kind of like, what is going on in this and that? Am I not enough? Am I not this? Am I not, especially the am I, because it's your ascendant. And through this crisis you find out that it was none of the above. And then you may find that this person is having, another girlfriend that is very attractive. In the beginning, you felt like, oh my God, she's probably just better than me. It's just going to commit to her. And more younger, more this, more that, more that. And then you find out that this girlfriend also has a boyfriend. And that he also has another girlfriend. And maybe he has also a boyfriend. And you're like, okay, they just live in this very weird way to you. And it's nothing about me, it's just who they are, but it's going to be through crisis. And first going on through this, am I not attractive, am I young enough, am I too young, am I not young enough, am I too thin, am I too like that, maybe in bed I'm not so much what I thought. Okay, and all of the above, all the while, it has never been that, it has never been related to that, it's just been who they are and who you are. And all the while you're thinking, I'm not attractive, I'm not this, I'm not that, you're meeting this man and that man and that man and that woman and that man and that man and that man. And each and every one is going to vivify something in you. One is very attracted to you. One thinks you're very intelligent. One wants to marry you and be monogamous with you, but you're not sure about him. And all these things that kind of bring up your ego. And with Uranus, because it's life energy, kind of like, oh, maybe I should go into painting, maybe I should record something, I should go into singing. And it kind of brings up a whole new trajectory. It's your path is getting a boost, but through crisis. Okay, all the while you could very much receive this liberation, but through a sextile, through a trine, where it's just like, with this person, I just feel like doing things I've never done before. Okay? If it is Pluto, and Pluto to the Ascendant, this is no joking matter, because Pluto harmonious to your Ascendant is going to be like, was I fearing that all along? Like, how silly I was to fear that all along. Because they're just going to provide for you the safety environment to explore your fears and anxieties. And if there's anything that you are afraid to be, they are just going to come to your life and bring in the best in you. They're going to encourage you in a very tender way, even by who they are, to explore your fears in being who you are, and to begin to unravel yourself. And not only that, they found themselves more and more attracted, more and more drawn to you, and you feel empowered by them. You don't feel as, you don't feel, if it is control, you don't feel control in the sense that it is a crisis, that you're losing your identity, or that that they overpower you, or don't let you be. It's more like, not only do they let you be, but encourage you to be even more so than you are. And they love it. They love also the power they have over you, but in the sense that next to them, you become even more who you are. You become even more authentic, and they have this power to induce, to unravel you, that they enjoy, that you both enjoy and you both like, and is good for you. Okay? On the other hand, Pluto hard aspect to Ascendant is no joking matter. And this is where I would say, it's beyond the red flag, it's a red line. Both if you have this to another person Ascendant, okay? Conjunction is also a hard aspect, okay? When you have a conjunction, the minute you discover this is most important to let go when you can, okay? Sometimes it's going to play itself out and blah, 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 but conjunction is very tight, it's very Plutonian energy, overwhelming the Ascendant. Yes, you are transformed, but usually you're growing apart, you're not growing together. Like, way too overwhelming, okay? Way too overwhelming. opposition as well. Square, absolutely. Okay, and because this is an outer planet, because it is Pluto, Pluto deals with themes of power and empowering. Okay, in hard aspects, it's an identity crisis that you eventually have to grow out of this person, or they grow out of you. Okay, maybe they understand I am the Pluto here. I began to do this play that undermines your whole identity, and I catch myself midway. Oh, I'm not going to be this person. Poof, I walk out. Now you're feeling like a tower of cards. You feel abandoned, collapsed. This person left you suddenly, and they were just doing that so not to play this Plutonian, not to control you, but eventually they ended up controlling you by leaving. Okay, even if they didn't do it, or they caught themselves playing out like, you know, what people call the narcissist, and you know, everything is a spectrum. They caught themselves and they're like, oh, I see that I'm beginning to play something here that is more to do with power, and even the motion of the person, like the personalization of like, no, 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 I'm leaving, I'm walking out. Okay, they don't explain themselves, they just do it because they care more about learning to trust themselves. This is what you need to understand. If you're the ascendant here, they care more about learning to trust themselves than about being eloquent and expressing that, because they care not to be with words, to play with words with you, but they want to actually act, do the right thing. If they are this, even if they are the Pluto, say, I want to do the right thing, I'm going to walk out of this person. I'm going to leave this person. I'm not going to play with them. I'm not going to have them in the vicinity, and so on and so forth. If you're the ascendant person, you can also find yourself doing that. But this time it's more about, I'm going to save myself from being in the situation where this is happening. And it doesn't have an explanation. Because it's Pluto, it is so hidden. It doesn't have an explanation, okay? I had this with the person, and because it's the ascendant, we started talking about the placement, talking about this, talking about that, and they, you know, my chart is out there. They asked about my ascendant degree, and for some godforsaken reason, I didn't answer. And I was like, there must be something with Pluto, because Pluto is hidden, and I was hiding the degree of my ascendant. There's no reasonable way to do so, but I felt like, they could be probing at that for the wrong reasons. Okay, lo and behold, they had a Pluto quite tight aspect to oppose my ascendant. Okay, it doesn't mean that they are a bad person. It means there's a certain thing playing out, that maybe they are learning to trust themselves, maybe they are not aware, maybe they are this, maybe they are that, maybe they are fully aware of what they want and why they do that. But it's not always the case. Pluto is going to be what we hide from ourselves. And maybe they thought, okay, this time I played this right, I this, I that. And I when I found out like more about the chart, I found out that was the issue. Okay, they had Pluto opposing my ascendant, which of course means that's a no-no for me. So, and what you need to understand about this is that the interaction of the crisis from Pluto to your ascendant is an identity crisis from the core of your identity. Okay, this is where we get my husband of 20 years was a narcissist, and so and so and so and so and so. Okay, because these themes are playing out unconsciously, sometimes by both people. And the very tricky thing is to learn how to not blame, even though the behavior was horrid, but separate and move on. Okay, not to blame each other for playing this. It's like, okay, whatever their reason that they were doing that was probably trauma related. It's not related to who you are, but you still have the right to be who you are. Okay, you should not have to fear who you are or set boundaries or let anybody dictate for you who you are. Okay, so this is very important. And if you have this Pluto to another person, It's very important that if you see this, the earlier you can, even to block this person. Don't be afraid to be unkind. You're not being unkind. You're doing the right thing. To walk out of the life of this person before you create a deep intimacy, then you are doing justice to this person. You're doing justice to yourself. And the more you learn to trust yourself, that you won't abuse the power, that you won't be tempted to undermine and control and transform mold this person into what the image of your desire, the more healthy your connections will continue to be. And you will see, because of Pluto is like a magnet, you will draw in healthier and healthier relationship. When you said, no, I'm not playing this part, I'm not playing this power game on the person's psyche, you will draw healthy and healthy relationships, because you will simply repel. Okay? Though, whether you're the Pluto person or even the Ascendant person, if you have something like this natally, but if you're the Pluto person, you work on your Pluto, you will simply repel all those people coming up to you that would have an identity crisis around you and make you feel even worse about who you are, because you've basically abused your power. Okay? And so you start, the earlier you can set intention, you can say, no, Pluto is setting intention, and then poof, you'll do it. You'll do it. Okay? And understand that even if there was harsh action, and even if you left, and even if this, and even if that, that's it. It's what you needed to do. And the earlier you do this, the sooner you begin to repel all those crisis relationships and start attracting people whose ascendant actually tries your Pluto. Now, your transformation is welcomed in their life, and you enjoy the power you have over them, but also over them to transform them for the better, and you both benefit from this. Because you're not undermining them, but you're actually unraveling the authenticity of who they are and enjoying the raveling in this transformation. So, if it is Neptune, and with Neptune, there's a great disillusion, because there's a great ideal, and there's a great longing, there's great dependency or codependency. And here is again what could blend their identity way too much and be left with nothing. Okay, so it's very it moves even slower than Pluto. Okay, and again, if this is in a trine, in a sextile, you will have more of an idealistic part coming out of you, and all those Neptunian experiences. Like, this is the difference between you're doing trying psychedelics with your spousey, and you're having a great time together, and this is a recreational activity for both of you that releases and bonds you even deeper than you're trying psychedelics with your spousey or your datee, and sexual boundaries are crossed, and you're having a bad trip, and the person plays a part in that bad trip. Okay, and now you don't know what was reality and what was not. Okay, it's that difference with Neptune. And so you want to be, whether Pluto's can be gaslighting, more conscious, the person is more tapping into consciousness. Neptune is completely disillusioned. Neptune completely, like, this is, even if the Neptune person knows what they're doing, you don't know what was reality, what was not reality, when the hard aspects are there. And it's either to your ascendant or ascendant ruler. Okay, so in this chart, it will be Neptune to Mercury, and Mercury is just separating from a Neptune aspect. And you don't want to keep a tight orb with that. People keep in tight orb with the outer planets. When it's a hard aspect, don't keep a tight orb. If it opposes, it opposes. If it squares, it squares. If it quincunxes, it quincunxes. Don't keep a tight orb. Do you have the leverage? Do you have the leeway to keep a tight orb with that? With something you could leave you with nothing, something you can transform your identity through crisis, something you could have depersonalization, dissociation, financial crisis, boundaries violated, Do you want to keep a tight orb with that? I wouldn't. Okay? All the while, know that just those planets with better aspects are going to give you all the goodies. Pluto is being who you are, not fearing to be who, facing the fears that you have in being you and going after what you go in life, but through warmth and support and empowerment, rather than to having to resist somebody that tells you cannot be this, you won't be that, this is not okay to do, but in a ways that undermine your confidence that you know, and they're playing this game. And again, they might not be aware that this is what is a pattern that they have somewhere in them that's plain out, you don't even know where it's coming from with Pluto. Okay, so this is why I put, and then of course you have ascendant to ascendant. How do your ascendant, if your ascendants are squaring, it means that tradition, no, and this is where it's important, because modern astrology, your ascendants are squaring, is like, oh, the first impression that you have of each other is not too good, but as you get to know each other, okay, traditionally speaking, if your ascendants are squaring, there's an innate tension between you and them that is not going to ever sort itself out. It's going to forever be a dissonance. Isn't that important to take into account? So, and with Aries, which is also a planet, and now is in 24, 23 degrees Aries. And this Aries is the goddess of discordia. So if it is a trine or a sextile, you could actually, one of you could be the underdog, or you find the underdog in you is being expressed through this relationship and supported. So this could be the included goddess of discordia that can actually be life transforming and very, very healing, because it's that part in you that was outcasted by society and withstood corruption. And now there's this person that is assisting you in facilitating or validating you. Okay, let's say, you know, if you're ascendant Venus and and that is trining their Aries, and they have personal planets to do with that. Okay, so this is Aries. Aries is a planet. But if it is hard aspects, it means that who you are outcasts a certain aspect of that person. And that could be downright lethal. Okay, Aries caused the Trojan War because she was that much isolated and not included in society. It was not an ego pettiness. She would probably not have housing, food, access to basic survival needs. Okay, it was not just she was not invited to the party. Okay, it's not being included in society so much you have to survive corruption of society. Okay, this is why if Aries hard aspects, your Aries hard aspects, someone's ascendant, they are a part of that corruption. Even if they're not aware of that, who they are, is a part of contributing to that corruption. And if it is your ascendant and their Aries is hard aspect in this, who you are is a part of the chain of offenders, even though you're not aware of it. Okay, let's say you're a social worker and your partner is a divorced man who lost his children and was accused of things that he genuinely didn't do. And he was that one person that was outcast and suffered a lot of corruption from the system for no reason. All the while, you are a social worker and you tend to believe that the children are better with the mother and so on and so on. You don't think that that correlates, because you need a single man with no children and you don't know anything about him, and who you are is basically a person that he's okay with your being in a gas chamber, or you're being murdered, or you're being like, okay, you get my point there. Okay, you basically sacrificed his life and the life of his children by just being who you, by just your title, by just who you are as a person. This one is definitely something to pay attention to, because there's a lot that's going with this that you're not even aware of. Okay, because you're not aware of certain corruption that's going on in the system, and you think you're on the right place, and your life path, sometimes you are on the right place for your life path, but that collides with this other person, or you are colliding with them in a way that is downright legal. Okay, with Aries is systemic corruption. Now, with in the context of Pluto and Capricorn, Aries is systemic corruption. In the context of Pluto and Sagittarius, perhaps religious or school corruption. With Pluto and Scorpio, corruption to do with sexuality, or corruption of people who look into detectives. Okay, detectives who are corrupt. Okay, stuff like that. And let's say this person survived some trauma, and then that trauma happened actually with someone who came to investigate them, okay, or to supposedly assist them, but was the investigator, and that happened a trauma with them. And you are saying to them, all you are just doing is saying, okay, but you know that it's important to file a complaint if something happened to you. They don't have time for you, darling. Okay, they want you dead. Okay, and this is why Aries is very important to look at. It is a planet, not just an asteroid, it's not just a point, and it's a planet that carries so much weight in society, and the feeling of being not included in society, that is very literally potent, and whatever degree it is, and you want to pay attention to that in a synastry, because you don't want to be a part of the corruption towards another person, and you also don't want to be um, colliding with people that are part of the corrupt system. Okay? You want to facilitate a way for you to actually be drawing in the people who could assist you in validating your experience of intense corruption. Okay, Aries is a point in your chart, but you or the person who's playing this Aries role has endured intense corruption and prolonged corruption. Okay, it's beyond CPTSD. CPTSD can be in the family. This is the person, let's say, was had abuse when they were a child, then at school, then at work, then at the psychologist, then at the psychiatrist, then with the law system, then with the government, and you get my point. And if you think, oh, these cases don't exist, this person, something must be wrong with them, probably something in you is harshly aspecting somebody's Aries, and you're a part, like you're a part of the problem. Okay, you're a part of the people that they would say, oh, to the mass graves, because like enough of that, you've sacrificed my life, enough of that. And this is where there's also where Aries is now in Aries, the very painful point. You just don't want to be around. If you think about people wishing another person to be dead, okay, more so than Pluto, more so than Neptune, more so than Saturn, more so than Mars, Aries is that place. Okay, doesn't mean they're going to act on it, but it definitely is not a compatible synastry, you understand? So yeah, and it means that you're going to realize this through a crisis, rather than if it was the sextile, then they could be, for example, you could be asking a question that if another person asked it, they would be, blowing the room out. But if you ask it, like they understand, they see that immediately come from an innocent place, and they can have the leverage, or to either say, well, it's too much for me, or to answer your question, you can actually facilitate in tending to that Aries issue. So you think about the atomic veterans, you think about people who had PTSD and were not acknowledged for decades by the system, and so on. You think about those people when you think Aries, in Aries. And that's pretty much what this is about. And that's pretty much what a synastry can do for you. again, because it is your ascendant, because it is you, you are very likely to have something that right from the get-go you feel that could go wrong. But in places like with Neptune, perhaps this is not at all the case. And so your initial situation, intuition and first impression that is looking like, oh, there's something not so cool here, um, can very well save your life in this case. But because there's not always this first-hand intuition, and sometimes by the time it comes, and if you have disembodiment experiences, it's even more difficult. But again, you want, when you look at the synastry and you see it graphically, um, stuff not to play with. Okay, this is stuff not to play with. And for sure, there will be people who tell me, Shirley, I have this ascended square in my partner's Pluto, and we're good, and we're this, and we're that, and we've been married for decades long. And I'm like, okay, fine, okay, yes, okay, but would that be the rule or the exception to the rule? Maybe you found some innovative way to deal with that, okay, but that would not be what I would prescribe and what I would advise. And again, this is not profiling. This is not profiling. And this is very important. It's not profiling. It's understanding that that person with another person could be good. That person with you could be very, very risky and even lethal. Or you with this person could be very, very risky, while with another person you could be good. Okay, it's the power of synastry. Okay, to break through the blame shame game into relational engineering that actually works, and structural engineering that actually works and is inclusive in our society. So hope that was helpful. Thank you for watching.